Welcome everyone to the third of our brown bags for the P&A Senate for this year, hosted by the Professional Development and Recognition Subcommittee. My name is Julie Rashid. I'm the co-chair along with Fran Fabrizio. And today we have the special pleasure to introduce Amanda Costello. To give our presentation today, she's the content strategist in the College of Education and Human Development. She has worked for the university in various departments since 2002 and joined CEHD in 2007. A former English teacher in Japan, she values clear communication and having a plan, plus a couple of backups. Amanda is an award-winning speaker on working with content specialists and the web, content strategy, building web teams, and sharing ideas to do good work. She enjoys filling out forms because it feels like taking a test where she knows all the answers. We will be taking questions at the very end. If you have any problems, please put a chat into the chat on the WebEx. And afterwards, when we have questions for the people in the Twin Cities, if you want to speak, the speaker in the front, you push it down, but you continue pushing it. If you just push it and leave it, it'll stop the transmission. But save all questions to the end. And now I will turn it over to Amanda.
Thank you. All right. Hello. Thank you so much for coming, especially after it's a cold day, it's a winter day, the sun's out, but I know that I am feeling the lengths of winter. So I know some of you. I'm just going to pretend like I know literally everyone on the WebEx. Hi, WebEx. And I'm excited to talk with you about probably the topic that you think about the most with love in your heart, organizational silos. So get ready, it's going to be great. So yeah, here we go. Hi, my name's Amanda. I look like this in case you can't see me, but again, we're doing this on WebEx, so some people probably cannot see me. I have been in CEHD for 10 years, and I've been in my current role as the web team's content strategist and web editor for about 5. If you want to find me on the internet, the easiest place to do it is on Twitter. This is my Twitter handle. Sometimes I talk about content strategy. Sometimes I talk about my cats. Last night I was talking about how, of course, since I was giving a presentation today, it'd be a great time to redo half my slide deck. And I did, and it's great. You can attempt to connect with me on LinkedIn, but I'm super bad at it, so no. So again, I'm a content strategist, and some people will hear me talk and say, okay, well, let's learn about content strategy. Is anyone here familiar with content strategy? Yay, some folks are. So some of my relatives, especially the older ones, tend to think that this is my job, just this screaming cat on the computer trying to work with things. Content strategy, we usually talk about it like this. This is what we call the quad. It was developed by Brain Traffic. And that content strategy defines how to use content to serve user needs and institutional goals. We guide decisions about the kind of lifespan of all content. We say from discovery to deletion, and that we also set measurements of how to see if our strategy is being successful. Now, a lot of people don't have time for that and don't have time to remember what it is I do. So often I will just tell people what I do based on what Karen McGrain says she does, which is on a good day, I make the web better, or I make the web more awesome, and on a bad day, I just make it suck less. Some days are just, it sucks less days, but we have a good amount of awesome days. So again, I work here at the U of M. I'm also a U of M alum. I've been around campus for many years. We've adapted Karen's phrase on our web team as well, where some days you might feel this as well as an employee here. Some days at the U of M are all driven to discover. We found out this new thing. We did this new awesome thing. Look at all this cool stuff we're doing. But some days you are indeed just driven to disco. Real graffiti that we saw on the bridge by Don Howe a few years ago. Thank you, students. So at the U is not unique to us, but indeed, because we are so large, we have silos. Is everyone here familiar with the concept of organizational silos? I got a little into this once, and someone said, what do you mean? I'm like, oh, no. But organizational silos are when the groups of people separate from each other, don't stop talking, and communication kind of ends. These are definitely an issue here. This is not the university's org chart. I had to go to the Department of Defense to get something like this, but it is a real org chart. So I have once indeed worked with an org chart that was so broken that Visio rejected it. We couldn't make it into a Visio document because, spoiler alert, you can't report to yourself, or at least Visio told us we couldn't. So we're working at a huge place. There's 23,000 employees here at the University of Minnesota, and we certainly have silos. People talk about it all the time. People especially talk about breaking down silos. How can we get rid of this problem? Like a good millennial, I also had this question, so I Googled it. And there are a lot of different ideas about how to break down silos, how to work in a flat organization. And no one seems to be able to solve this. They just say burn it to the ground, work flat, silos are terrible all the time. So I decided to step back and take a look at the root of what organizational silos are, how they show up, and why they're generally seen as bad. So the first one, like Sociology 1001, humans form groups. We naturally do this. This is part, we find people who have things in common with us, who are like-minded, people in similar situations, and we group up. It's both comfortable to us and it's an evolutionary necessity. We're social species, and forming groups is a marker of that. When we're in these groups, it also gives us protection from crap. I am a knitter. I am not a crocheter. Say something happened in the world and all of the crochet hooks just spontaneously combusted. Well, bummer for those crocheters, but I'm a knitter and my needles are fine. I'm not affected by that one because I'm in a different group. So if that group screws up, you're still safe. Even though you all in an organizational silos will work in the same place, if one thing is toxic or bad, you might be safe from it. Now, indeed with this, the actual silos, but if one silo does take a tumble or becomes gross, the whole structure can be compromised. Now you start to set up this mode of us versus them. Again, knitter versus crocheter. No, I am the knitter. I deserve the yarn. We both use yarn, but no, give it to me. We choose not to be part of a group, or we're not part of a group. And then you have them. You have us. You're unwilling to share when resources are limited. That leads to ruined efficiency. And then maybe this quote, I sure hope all of my hard work is being secretly duplicated elsewhere, said no one ever. Then this happens. A giant sinkhole of morale. You look around, and I'm sure everyone's had this. You don't have to raise your hands. You can just raise your hand in your heart. How many people have sometimes looked around and says, how does anything ever get done at this place? How are we still standing? How is this still a thing? When then you look at, you see these silos. You see them making a barrier to it. And then you realize that it's not just a bunch of organizational silos. It is silos inside of other silos. All the reading that I did about breaking down silos happened to come from, they said you have to be at the top of it to make this kind of organizational chain. Well, we're not. I don't think anyone in this room, some of us might be at the top of a silo, but I absolutely guarantee you that your silo is inside another silo itself. So taking that advice about how to break them down isn't something that I feel like I'm empowered to do or have the capability to do. So I thought about, what about rethinking silos? So if you're listening to this talk and we're really, really stoked about hearing how to break down silos and work in a flat organization, spoiler, that's not what I'm going to recommend. Some people have gotten upset. They said, Amanda was going to tell me how to break down silos and she never did. I'm not going to, but I think this one's still good. So we're going to start looking at silos. I ran across this line when I was doing my research. Silos belong on farms. I had a lot of issues with this. I wrote a very, very ranty blog post, which I promptly deleted because it was not going to be productive, and I channeled that energy instead into making a talk about it. When people talk about silos and they make a comparison, they think of silos like this, on this sweet little toy dairy farm next to the red barn. But I think of actual silos very differently. When someone says this, I say, bro, do you even Midwest? Because these are the silos that I think about. This is what I think about when I think about how a silo would work. A grain elevator. So it's collections of silos that's linked together at the top for a same purpose. So that connection element is critical. Since I live in Minneapolis, and I'm sure a lot of you coming into campus will often see silos all over the place. A little bit of back history. The Mill City, in 1900, 14% of the world's flour was milled in Minneapolis. The Pillsbury A Mill made enough flour in one day for 12 million loaves of bread. But things change. Agriculture changes. Transportation changes. Food production. So Minneapolis, with so many other cities and towns around the United States, is left with a whole bunch of empty grain elevators and empty silos. This is part of the ADM complex that has 80 silos in it. Someone also told me how they did the United Crushers graffiti, and it's amazing. But this is 80 silos inside just the old ADM elevator. It's part of a larger bit that has over 167 silos in it, and none of these are being used. They are all empty. Now, of course, when you start to look at things the way I do as a liberal arts major, you're like, how are things connected in my life? What am I looking at, and how is it another way? Sometimes it takes some creative thought to say, how is this thing like this thing? What are the similarities? But sometimes you're just driving down University Avenue and realize that your metaphor is literally right next to where you work. So I'm passing these physical silos when I am driving into work, and I'm also thinking about the organizational silos that are challenging for me. With this, I decided the best thing to do next is to, like a good English major, read some books. And the book that I read was about sustainable architecture. Now, this is exciting weekend reading for me. If anyone else here is a fan of Stuart Brand, let's totally talk. But Stuart Brand works on architectural sustainability. And his book, How Buildings Learn, talks about what goes on with the building that can become a new thing. He really wants people to use buildings that are already there, not just tear it down and rebuild again, but how can a building change? And that building change is something that is much more capable than we thought it was. It's not this building is A and now it needs to be B. One of the things that he says is a building's responsibility is that it should not only remain sturdy with age, but remain appropriate to its users as they themselves evolve. Now, with examples of architecture, real silos and real grain elevators do this all the time. This is part of the gold medal flower silos on the river. This is during Northern Spark, which is an all-night art festival. These silos were turned into essentially like an art canvas for this projection art. There are silos all over the United States that are being used as mural contests to add more public art to spaces. Anyone here from Iowa? Anyone here from Cedar Rapids? That's okay. Because Cedar Rapids also has a silo that has been repurposed. My family's from Southwest Iowa, so we can all have our Iowa, like all the other Iowa people, we can talk about what quadrant of Iowa we're from after. So with Cedar Rapids, there was someone that said, hey, you know what? I'm really into ice climbing. Guess what Cedar Rapids is not really globally known for? Ice climbing. But it didn't matter because he had purposes and things to do to modify to make it a possibility. There are a series of silos in Cedar Rapids where you can go ice climbing because he ran a whole bunch of hoses up the inside of an old grain silo, and now you can practice your ice climbing. If you've been across the Greenway south of Uptown, you may have seen these condos, which are an old grain elevator. A lot of people have looked at these before and have never really pieced out that it used to be a grain elevator. If you go inside, it's even more obvious. The walls are curved. They're extremely beautiful. I mentioned once to people that I think they sell for about $350,000 to $400,000, which makes all of the Midwesterners just very like, ooh, spendy. And all the people from the West Coast are like, let's move to Minneapolis. That's amazing. So you've got these actual silos which have learned, which have been taught to do something else. Now we get back to our organizational silos, which I think are even a little more bonkers because it's higher ed. Higher ed is a very old industry. We have a very long industry-based or organizational memory. A friend of mine that works at UCLA said that silos are not just a bureaucratic inconvenience in higher ed. They are a closely protected way of life. And that's because the way of life that we've been doing with higher ed has been going on for centuries. Oxford is over 900 years old. The madrasas in Fez are even older. Harvard was founded 140 years before America was a thing. The industry that we are in, the space of higher education, is something that tends to take a very, very long view. We also are unique in what I will crudely call our product. I see higher ed, and I say this very charitably, as an idea factory. We have people surrounding each other about developing knowledge, building on past knowledge, passing this knowledge on to other people who then continue to develop it, come up with new ideas. The ideas feed and work together. So our mission surrounding this knowledge, the generation of it, teaching it, giving it to other people to make new things, our responsibility to that mission makes us unique, I think, among almost any other industry. And it also makes us unique in how we work together as groups. So being in higher ed, I have learned a couple things about motivation and what kind of keeps people going in higher ed. The first thing that motivates people around, I'd say the university, but in any university or college, is resource scarcity. I don't have any donuts for you. I'm sorry. This slide also makes me very hungry. So with this, with everyone coming up with ideas, with everybody having these ideas, we can do this, we can build on this, we are always going to be resource poor. We do not have all of the resources to do every awesome thing everyone thinks about. We just can't. We can't fund these things, and I mean funding in a lot of different ways. We don't have enough space for people. I say this as someone who once had to walk through 2 different rooms. I had no door, and the closest window was 2 different rooms away from me. Then at one point, I had given this presentation to people in the bookstores, and they were all just like, don't. I'm like, okay, yes. Windows, I very much appreciate. But we don't have enough space for stuff. How many people here have shared an office or are sharing an office with another person? How many people have shared with 3 other people, 4 people to an office? How many people have shared with 8 or more other people in a workspace? It happens. There's just not enough space for all the things that we want to do. There's also not enough people. Think about your team, think about your coworkers. If someone had said, oh, you can have another FTE of hiring. You can have another person on your team. And, cost is not a problem. Do you need another person on your team? Can none of you think of anything? You're like, I know of something they could do. You're like, you know what? We're good. We don't need another person. That wouldn't help us at all. No, we don't always have enough people. We also don't have enough time, which is true in a lot of places. And also, we just don't have enough money. With every good idea we have, we just literally cannot fund it sometimes. So with all of these really scarce resources, or these limited resources, we get to the second motivating factor, jealousy. Because it's impossible to have enough resources, someone else is going to get resources that maybe you feel like you should have had. You say, I can do this thing for $10,000, this research, and someone says, I have $2,000. And the $8,000 is going to somebody else. Oh, someone else can get those resources you feel entitled to. So you would think that our big motivation in higher ed is supporting the innovation, the discovery, changing the world. But I have found time and time again that what seems to motivate people is this cycle. This is also then when you get to really, really intense conflict. Sometimes because people in silos aren't talking, and sometimes just because of the resource scarcity churn, where people will have huge blow-ups about tiny, tiny things. Like someone's business cards got embossed and someone else's didn't. That a certain faculty member's name is below somebody else's name, even though you alphabetized it, and can't we just change how the alphabet works this time? That's never happened. And that's where you get to, if you've heard of Sayre's Law, you will almost definitely think of an instance where this has happened, where the politics are so vicious because the stakes are so low. It's the alphabet. There are other things to talk about. It's a business card. Let's put this past your, okay, no. So this is a very uplifting talk, and I hope you all feel great. But we're going to move into some more happy news, because indeed, good news, everyone, that we working in higher ed are actually in a place to examine our organizational silos and make change. Someone at one point had referenced this to me, and they said, "How's that for a silo?" I said, "Oh, okay." So the distance that we put between everyone and us, being in the ivory tower, we often get slammed for it because we're spaced out from other people. We can't relate to other industries. If any of you know Nick Rosenkrantz, he told me a joke at one point that the safest place to be during a zombie apocalypse will be a university campus because it will take at least 2 years for any change to get there. We're safe here. So, but this distance lets us take a longer view. It lets us work on things. It lets us try things out. Because I thought about what Brand said about silos themselves and buildings changing, that the responsibility is not only to remain sturdy with age, but to remain appropriate to its users as they themselves evolve. That's higher ed. That's the university. We are something that's been around for a really long time. There are things about us that need to remain sturdy. But we also have to remain appropriate to our users because they are changing. The people inside of higher ed are changing, and the world is changing as well. When Brand talks about an actual building change, he doesn't say, here is this building, now it is a new thing. He encourages folks to look at buildings as having a lot of different components. The first component is the site, or a physical place a building is located. After that, the structure is built on top of it. Things on the outside of the building he calls the skin. Or different, say it might be signage or paint. Once you move inside the building, there are services, what the building is made to do, and what activities it's made to house. You have the space plan, how it's laid out, where people go, and then the physical stuff inside the building. These are all different ways to look at how a building can change and adapt and learn. And you can change these things with different timelines. You can change the stuff in your office in days or months. Swap out a desk, get a new chair. A space plan takes a little longer. Services, what's done in the building. We've all seen buildings here completely swap what they do or how they, the space in Williamson used to be a bookstore, and now it's ASR. So, and the skin takes a little longer, structure takes much longer to change, and the site is functionally eternal. Like you could dig a hole in it, but it's still a space in time. So think about these condos. If they were still grain elevators, and if you had to go to the roof every time you wanted to walk from your living room to the kitchen, that would be bad. So they connected these silos, and they said, how can we make this now a condominium? How does this work as a one piece that's pushed together instead of many individual things? The building needed to learn, and it needed to do something else. So with this, when you are looking at making organizational change, think about it in terms of this. What change can I make that's stuff? What change if I'm trying to make that might be structural change and take longer to do? The other thing with this is working horizontally. Just like those condos are connected on a horizontal plane, so you can walk from your living room to your kitchen without either going into the basement or the roof. This is one of the things I recommend the most about working inside a siloed organization, is finding other people, is asking who else has this problem? Who else is doing this well? And meeting with them and talking to them, making those connections between the silos. Because if you reach out to someone and they don't get back to you, that's cool. There's 23,000 people that work here. You can reach out to somebody else. Because if you remember this motivation, the resource scarcity and jealousy, you can use these to your advantage. Oh, see the nice things that they have over here? We could have that if we worked the right way. Oh, look at this. This is how they did this thing. Or, oh, this other group is also trying to figure out this problem. I once took this motivation and went and did a talk with a really small school. You might not have heard of it. It's pretty little. I don't really know. I mean, I guess they're trying to make some waves over in Madison. A friend of mine worked at UW-Madison, and she said, can you come over and tell us about how your web team does your work? How do you do content strategy? How do you get buy-in? So I drove down to Madison, and it was lovely. And I had this whole conversation. We had a bunch of communicators from across campus. We had this big conversation for about 2 or 3 hours. At the end of it, one of the attendees said, I can't believe that the University of Minnesota let you come here. and that they would let you share the info. Now, with this, granted, I am the person that once corrected our president on Twitter when he said that we should avoid other rodents like wolverines and badgers to cheer for. They're mustelids. It's a different kind of animal. But he never responded to me. I'm sure it's cool. He was just like, oh, yeah, thanks, Amanda. Like, got your back. But this, like, we are rivals with Madison. We have an axe that we play for with football. This photo was so hard to find. Pretty much any other photo I could find of Goldie and Bucky involved one or the other one just body slamming someone. So we are not encouraged to think that we are the same, but we are. The other Big Tens, the other schools, there's so much stuff that we have in common. So finding that horizontal bridge, even if it's with another institution, another college, another unit, reach out to folks and say, hey, can we talk? Can we grab coffee? How are you figuring this out? Your website doesn't look like it got dressed in the dark. I want to know why. How did you put this together? Build these strong bridges, and feel free to build these bridges for other people. If I know that Ellen and Amy should totally talk to each other, I would connect the two of them, say, you guys are dealing with a bunch of the same stuff, you should get to know each other, and then I would peace out. Do not police other relationships that you help. If you build a bridge, do not be the troll underneath it. Let other people connect. The other way to work inside a silo, inside a kind of grain elevator space, is working vertically. This is about empowering your leadership, your boss, your grand boss, which is your boss's boss, great grand boss. I've been told that my great grand boss finds it very humorous that I use that term, which, hooray. So all of this idea of vertical work came from a story that my boss shared a few years ago. So here's my boss. Totally looks like this. This is a photograph. He found himself in a meeting with our college's chief of staff. And together they work in our college. And they were going to meet with another chief of staff from a different college to talk about our web structure and how we do our work and strategy. We'll give them hats. Those are the chiefs of staff. So in this meeting, they get together, and my boss starts to talk to the other chief of staff and realizes that the questions that she's got, he can't answer that well. He doesn't do chief of staff work. She wants to know about bigger picture stuff that he's like, well, this is what I do in day to day. He was much more kind of in the weeds with the work that we do. So instead, beforehand, when they met again, he talked to his boss. He talked to our chief of staff and said, as a chief of staff, what do you want to know about what we would do? And then in the meeting, the two chiefs of staff were prepared to talk to each other in, I'm sure, chief of staffese, the language that chiefs of staff speak. And they could talk about those similar concerns, and they had that kind of parallel understanding. That was the horizontal bridge that was started by being built vertically. Also, my boss is not in every single meeting of chiefs of staff. There are plenty of meetings where he is gone and he's not there. But if our chief of staff has that information, then my boss's voice can be heard in rooms that he is not in. When you're talking with folks about this, when you show up and say, hi, ask me questions, none of them are dumb. This should be like a therapy session. You let them ask questions. You let them know that there are no stupid questions to ask. I mean, there are, but probably not directly about your work. But what do they wish they knew more about? What do they like about other things that they see? What do they wish they could do if there was no resource scarcity? They had all the money, all the time, all the people, all the donuts. What would they do? You let them talk, and you work on hearing them. A big thing I do when I meet with people, and I usually call these web feelings meetings because it turns out people have a lot of feelings about websites, but no one's ever asked them. I try to see this as empowering them, to know that we're on the same side. I use a little bit of a structure, and I'll email this out afterwards. Egan's skilled helper model. I took a class here a number of years ago that was essentially intro to counseling practices, and it's been one of the best professional development things I've ever done. The model has 3 sections where you start by talking with someone in exploration. What's happening now? What's going on? Tell me your story. Tell me how you're feeling about what's going on. For some people, that first step, just sitting down and talking to them, is all they need. They just needed someone to tell about how they're feeling and what's going on, and then they reach an action phase themselves. If you're going through someone, when you challenge people as the kind of second step, what would a future look like? What is the worst thing you can imagine happening? Which is a sincere question. It's not what's the worst that could happen, because I have a very active mind, and today, like, I had gone from, oh, I'll give this talk, and oh, what if they don't like it, to like step B, oh no, and then I was like fired, and then I lost my house, and then there was like nuclear war. Like, I am so good at escalating and catastrophe, but having someone ask, what could happen? What would this look like? What would change look like? What would failure look like? And then action planning. You figure out a way forward together. So I use this model when I'm talking with people. And this means meetings. This means being face-to-face with people. Because email sucks a lot. Email's good for some things. Like, email's good for, hi, we had a meeting, here's a couple action items. Here are some due dates, and if they're missed, this is what will happen next. And just documenting projects. Email's good for many things, but I'm going to show you a couple of subject lines from emails that are bad. Heads up, these might cause anxiety and feelings in you because they made me anxious to write them. Have you ever gotten an email subject line? Hey? Or we should talk? Was this meant for someone else? Stop by my office? And sometimes it's like, oh, because I brought in bread and I wanted you to have a piece. Are you coming to the meeting? We're all here. Or the most anxiety-inducing is a subject line regarding yesterday. But showing up for people builds goodwill. You are spending some of those resources. You're spending time. How many of you have had a meeting before and had someone say, it's good to put a face to the name? Because you've been emailing like forever. Be a face, show up. You are spending the currency of time. You are spending the currency of attention. And you are validating someone just by saying, I'm showing up for you. I am here, I am in your presence. Let's do things together. So when you look at this resource scarcity that we operate under, what do you have to give? I generally recommend giving time, actual personal time, and showing up for people. Also, hold office hours if you want more people to come and talk to you. I started doing this when I worked in a department. I said, my door's always open. Come and tell me what you're thinking about. And people didn't. And I tried to put out candy, and they just take candy and leave. And so I set up office hours. I said, hi, happy spring semester. My office hours are Tuesday and Wednesday from 8:30 to 11. Because then it looked like my time was scarce. People are like, oh, I got to talk to Amanda. OK, I got time on Wednesday. I'll drop in. They did. I'm like, you can actually come by. I don't. Office hours aren't really a thing for me. I'm not faculty and I don't teach. So yeah, they're like, oh, good to know. But that actually got people in the door to come and see me and talk to me. So this kind of way is a good way to encourage motivation and collaboration and working with people who are at different levels than you inside your own silo. A bad way to motivate people is fear. Please don't do this. Motivating with fear is something you can do. Scared people will take actions because they are scared, but it is not sustainable to do this. You are better than this. Now, you might think, oh, Amanda, I don't do this. I don't motivate with fear. That's gross. That's it. No. It turns out you might be motivating with fear in other weird ways, including a way that I've seen is very common. I'm going to, in a minute, start a video that is often shown in the context of people talking about the web. This is usually introduced with the headline of, I just want people to know what we're dealing with here, with this ecosystem of the web here. This video, gonna give you a heads up. It starts off with a really terrifying air raid siren, has a whole lot of questionable research, a boatload of privilege, and a Fatboy Slim song, so if that's not your bag. All right, here we go. I've seen this so many times, it just makes me upset every time. We don't have a choice. Okay, good. Quote from the guy who made the video. Neat. This isn't how populations work. That's not how we measured. Cool, next one. Under 30, here come the millennials. Here we come, marching in, this big army of young people. And it turns out that we hate smelling things over our phones. Don't take my phone away, take my nose away. All right. More people on a mobile device. Okay, no, that has to do with water access and all. Okay, cool, next stat, here we go. Mobile and social aren't emerging. Oh, don't do it. I have an English degree. Oh, that's terrible copy. Okay. Video will account for 2/3 of mobile usage. Granted, yeah, we've seen video grow a lot. That's why you should spend money on videos. Do you have videos? Buy them, buy them. Every 2 seconds, 2 new members join LinkedIn. The enrollment of the Ivy League joining LinkedIn every day. No. This video makes me crazy, as you can possibly tell. The Ivy League is joining LinkedIn every day. What does that mean? What does that mean? Harvard's on there. What? No, that's not a good statistic. This is the kind of video that gets people really scared and freaked out because they feel like they're falling behind, and they run into my office and they're just like, the Ivy League's on LinkedIn. Where are we? I'm like, what? I saw it. Everyone's watching videos. We need 10 videos because they're all watching them. I'm like, well, no, if you look at videos, this kind of stuff just freaks people out. What is the total enrollment of the Ivy League? And anyway, so I mean, this video literally starts off with a siren. It puts you in a mindset to be scared of what they're about to tell you. It also touches on another thing that people use to scare people, which is, again, millennials. We have been saving and killing things since 1981. I've last read that we are both saving and killing coffee, so you're welcome. This shows up especially because we have a lot of students on campus. So in the fall, sometimes people will circulate things of, hey, here's what you should know about the class of 2021. Here's the students that are coming in, little factoids about them. Ones from a couple of years ago were the incoming class has never licked a stamp. The incoming class assume Wi-Fi is an entitlement. And the incoming class has no firsthand experience with the charismatic celebrity of Princess Diana. So I have no personal firsthand experience with the charismatic celebrity of Teddy Roosevelt, but I know this guy was a weaponized badass, but he died in like 1919, so I was not born before then. It's kind of factors like this and kind of things like this, other people. They make people say, like, they've never licked a stamp. One, we invented the self-adhesive stamps. Like, when people say, oh, you millennials just want trophy, I'm like, who is giving them out? I did not go to the trophy store, but I remember seeing a trophy store and being very impressed by it. But with this, like, also who loved licking stamps, really? Who was like, no, they're stickers now, my stamp licking. Like, no, things change. You can do better than this. It's using the word assume. Entitlement. Wi-Fi is entitlement. Great. It's nasty kids these days crap. When you start to talk about millennials, make sure you're not just being mad at young people, because when you were a young people, the olds were also crabby with you. I once was at a thing where the person before me was giving a presentation on millennials. Who are they? What do you need to know? I'm like, okay. And they started to go on about all of these things and different ways of understanding millennials. And it just got to this really gross kids these days place. And I'm furiously updating my slides because I found Time magazine covers. There's the one of the girl who's laying down taking a selfie. It's like the me generation. They just look in their phones. I found Time, Newsweek, and Life magazine covers going all the way back to, I think, 1954, which have a different version on that headline. What's up with these young people? They're so young and weird. Why? People always do this. So if you're looking at this stuff, the video is fine to show, the stats are fine to use, but give context. Don't just let them speak for themselves. Why are we thinking about millennials this way? Why are we looking at different experiences? The good use of that is someone often brings up the fact that I think our incoming class, we're nearing the point where our incoming freshmen that will be 18 years old were born after 9/11. And the current crop of incoming freshmen who are again in their late teens probably don't have a memory of 9/11. I think for many people in this room, we all have that kind of snapshot memory of the day, where we were, et cetera. But as time passes, which, spoiler, it does, people lose that. So if you're teaching a class about, say, the effects and the aftermath of 9/11, you can't just appeal to your students and say, well, you all know where we were. You know where you were. They don't. But that shouldn't preclude them from learning and understanding history, which they're very capable of doing. Good news that I have for you. Maybe some of you are thinking about all this and you're like, well, that's great, but things are bad for me. Upside, you're not literally trapped in a metal death tube. Our silos are a metaphor. And they're much more porous than we think they are. They are things that we can move between. You can make connections. And sometimes they are the structure that we need. Because remember this protection from crap slide of how if one silo falls and you're in another one, you know, I'm a knitter and oh, there go the crocheters. Whew, knitting's still fine. Sometimes that can make things okay. Here's an example from real world silos. Vomitoxin, most delicious sounding word ever. Real crops can get infected with vomitoxin, and the USDA has rules about the percentage of vomitoxin that can be found in crops. And if a silo is contaminated with this and it goes above that part per million, that is lost. All of it just has to be destroyed. You can't sell it or move it out. So having things in multiple silos keeps your whole crop from being wrecked. If you had only one silo and it gets infected, it's all gone. If you've got 10 and one is infected, one's gone. Think about, because this place is so large, has anyone ever asked you, what's it like to work at the U of M? And you're like, which part? Because all of us can think about a part that is great. I really love where I work. I love my team. I love the work that I get to do. There are other parts of the university where it might be weird leadership, or they're going through a lot of change, or you're working with someone who just really hates what's going on. Toxic environments also happen, but we're not completely flat, and one weird spot, one leadership shakeup and stuff doesn't take the whole place down. This is, again, being sturdy with age. If you're looking around yourself and going, oh my, I am in the contaminated silo, you can indeed get out. It is okay. My friend Elaine once said, some teams are just broken. You can move. Again, not literally in a metal death tube. So change can happen, and that's really what I'm here to encourage and let you know. Things can happen. They happen slowly, but you can do things at different increments. Taking this again, what's a change that you can make that's at the stuff level? Something that's really small that you can do and see if it works. Maybe if you try it out and it fails because everything moves so slowly here, no one might even notice. You're like, I tried it, it failed. People are like, what did you start doing? You're like, never mind. Nobody knows. So look at what level you're working on and also what levels can you affect. Maybe you're not working on a space plan level, but you can affect and talk to leadership who is. So what does change look like? Can these levels be connected through knowledge and working together? If we tear everything down every time and build a new thing every time we need a new change, it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable for buildings, and it's not sustainable for organizations. But if we look at our silos as having these components that have different levels within them and that are connectable things, we can start to make change right away. A lot of people get frustrated, especially at the university, that it feels like change takes forever. It takes a super long time. But they say it's like trying to turn an aircraft carrier, which are amazing pieces of engineering that look like a building just laid down in the water and now can drive places. Turning the university can be like trying to turn an aircraft carrier. But I think that we're actually more like a fleet of ships. Smaller ships are more nimble. They can make changes quicker, try out new things, come back to the fleet if it didn't work. The aircraft carrier, though, can turn. It can change, just very slowly. It's a little easier for it. Everybody else is starting to go in that situation, too. So starting this stuff can be hard. It can be scary and a really hard leap to take. So when I, indeed, am getting started, I tend to, again, millennial, look on the internet. There's a video done by Zay Frank called Invocation for Beginnings. It's a wonderful video. I will not show the whole thing now because it's long. But he was starting to address his worries about getting going, about making a change, about, he says, that terrible space between 0 and 1 of getting going. So I encourage people to take this idea of starting, of making that leap as you go back to your offices for the day, as you're sitting in your office, finishing up your Jimmy John's or your other sandwich, hello WebEx. But you can't prepare forever. You can't think about it forever. I mean, we can make committees forever because we're higher ed, but please choose to start. The action at the end of the meeting should not just be, we need another meeting. Like, make a plan to do something. Some of the quotes from the video that really stick with me are, he says, my pencils are sharp enough, even the dull ones will make a mark. The resource scarcity. You might not be in the absolute perfect place to do the perfect thing that you want to do, so start with what you've got. And he also says that life isn't just a sequence of waiting for things to be done, that the process is a part of this as well. It's a part of beginning and starting and being in it. Some people often ask me about when we're developing websites, when's the website going to be done? And I tell them that websites are done in the way that like dishes are done. It's a cycle. It's something that goes on. If we always look at work that we're doing as a final finished product, then the process gets lost and we feel resentful when we have to do it again. It's all a process. It's not just finishing things. It's enjoying where we are. So my encouragement for you is to start small. Our silos are porous. We can make this work. You can make connections in this room. You can make connections through P&A Senate. Other people who might be dealing with the same stuff as you or have overcome it and can help you out. Our silos in higher ed have lasted a long time. Just like how real grain elevators stand and stand and stand. They are good for building on. They are a solid foundation for us to make change. We have the time, we have the talent, we have the community, and we have the drive. So you can start small, but just remember to start. Thank you very much. And I have time. We've got probably about 10 minutes for questions, both on WebEx and here. Does anyone have questions, or you just have a lot of feelings?
Make sure you push your button if you're located here at the Twin Cities, and if you're on WebEx, then pop it into the chat.
Does anyone think this is just a giant lie? I had someone at a conference who's just like, good luck starting that. I'm like, oh, well, we do it. This is part of how we work. They're like, yeah, I don't think it will work. I'm like, no, it is working in the present tense where we are right now. Yeah.
So one of the things you mentioned was when working horizontally, you should identify people who have the same problem. Mm-hmm. Can you comment on whether that would apply to people who share the same goals?
Oh yeah, just finding people with commonalities. I was working on a site for one of our research centers, and we were trying to figure out how to organize content around it. And I then just said, who else is doing this research? Turns out there was a similar center at Harvard, and their site just had it figured out. I'm like, how did you get all this group together? So I emailed the communications contact on their About team. I was like, hi, so I'm in Minnesota, and we're working on this. Would you be willing to talk to me about the process used for your information organization on your website? And she said, sure. So we did a Google Hangout and connected. So if people said, I also don't have the people at the time or the resources to make one strategy and say, everyone, here you go. We kind of have to roll it out. We work with our departmental content strategists to say, hey, as a team, we have this idea. And then some of them can say, listen, we have a lot going on. We have a new chair. They're kind of getting their priorities figured out. This isn't the best time for a big change for us. Someone else can say, oh, my chair really, really likes to be an early adopter. Try out new things, see if it works. Someone else can say, my chair would be cool with this, but we want to make sure that it works first. So having someone else do it first, and then we line them up. If there's a problem that's happening, being able to essentially focus resources to solve on a small level and then make it scalable, where other people are like, oh, that worked really well. It's like, you too can have this amazing outcome. This is how we did it. and people can say yes or no to it if they want. Also, sometimes people will say no, and then instead of getting crabby about it, you can just say, okay, that's your decision to make. The only things I can control are what I do with my emotions. I cannot control how other people feel, and that is what keeps me going some days. Yeah.
We have a question from online.
Hi, WebEx.
How can we avoid having silos used to divide and conquer, to disaggregate people with shared interests, or is that even a thing?
Sometimes silos are used as a weapon of people saying, you stick around up here at the front for a little bit, and if you want to come up and talk, that is totally cool. This is my email address. I usually use Gmail for this. I'm also Amanda C at UMN. Someone else took Amanda. I love you, Amanda Rondo. But she has that email, so I am indeed Amanda C. And yes, I can drink lattes forever. So if you want to get together and have coffee, let's do that thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Amanda. Thank you, everyone online and also in person for attending. Your participation, your feedback in these events is always most welcome. If you are interested in learning more about the P&A Senate or becoming a senator yourself or simply participating on a subcommittee, I don't believe you have to be a senator to participate on a subcommittee, but our chair can correct me if I'm wrong. Please go to usenate@umn.edu, and underneath Senates, click on the P&A Senate and learn more about us. So thank you very much again for joining, and have a lovely day. And eat more brownies.